Good morning and welcome to your exam-based content class for English Communication A. The code for the module is POLC-ENG. I'm your tutor, Miss Elizabeth Chimwaza. So basically what we are going to do today is to guide you through your exam. The tips on how to be successful when you're studying, and also just a brief summary for the whole module. I'm going to start by giving you exam tips. As individuals, there are many different factors to consider when looking at how to make the most of English study time. So compiling a definite list of tips when studying is a difficult task. For a start, a student is different. So perhaps the first and most important tip when studying is to know your own individual strength and weakness. For example, if you're a person who prefers to study during the day, you make your study timetable to suit your day period. And if you're a person who is comfortable studying during the night, you make your study timetable during the night. You also have to analyze the things that make studying for you. Adapt your study regime to suit you. Do not follow what your colleague is doing. If it's not suiting you, you better adapt your study regime to suit you. It is important when you are writing your exam to follow instructions. The examination paper consists of instructions that guides you on how many questions to answer. So before you start writing the exam, read the instructions carefully. Each exam has different instructions. So do not assume that your previous exam is going to have the same instructions with your current exam. You are advised to write legibly. Legibly, it means write clearly and neatly. If you make a mistake, make sure the mistake is cancelled. Do not leave your mistake uncancelled. Write with a blue or a black pen. Plan your time per question. An examination paper may have a lot of questions, so if you just start writing before planning, and some questions require more time than others, so you need to plan your time per question. Structure your answers through readings and numbers and logical sequence. Answer all questions if it is required. If you need to choose, you can choose any question that you are comfortable to answer. Okay, we are now going to move on to learning outcomes. These are the learning outcomes for this particular module, which is Communication A. After this session, you should be able to identify different parts of speech, explain the use of punctuation marks, explain how to combine sentences, illustrate the use of different types of questions, use active and passive voice, and apply direct and indirect speech. Explain skimming, scanning, and intensive methods of reading. So, I am going to start by explaining how to identify different types of speech. During the course of your study, you are going to be familiar with 7 different types of speech. The first one is nouns. Nouns are naming words. The function of the noun is to name people, place, things, groups, and qualities. There are basically 4 types of nouns. Proper nouns, for example, your specific name. If your name is John, then John is a proper noun. If your name is Dr. Smith, then Dr. Smith becomes proper noun. B, common nouns. Common nouns, these are general nouns. As compared to proper nouns are specific nouns, but common nouns are general nouns. General nouns, for example, boy, girl, driver, doctor, school, hospital, these are common nouns. We also have what we call abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are a representation of an idea. For example, if I say knowledge, knowledge becomes an abstract noun. An abstract noun is something that we cannot touch. Abstract nouns, I was explaining that this is an idea. For example, knowledge, even the word idea itself, it's an abstract noun. We move on to D, which is collective nouns. That is the fourth type of nouns that we have. A collective noun is a noun which is having two words or more than two words. So it means it's a group of nouns combined together. So an abstract noun can be, for example, police officer. Police officer is it's a collective noun. We move on to the second type of speech or part of speech, which is the verb. The verb and its function. The verb is a doing or an action word. Verbs have two important functions. Some verbs put static objects into motion, while other verbs help to clarify the object in meaningful ways. Before I continue, let me just give you different examples of verbs. Verbs, we have present tense for the word eat. We also have the past tense, which becomes ate. We also have the present continuous, which is eating. We have it as the past continuous, and when we are using present continuous and past continuous, we always combine it with the verb to be, which is in the present tense if it is present continuous, so it becomes is eating. And the past tense of the past continuous, we use the past tense of the verb to be, which is was eating. The important thing to note when we are talking about verbs and its function, it is the tenses. I explained earlier that we have the present tense, we have the past tense, we have the future tense, present continuous, past continuous, present perfect tense, past perfect tense. So when you're studying for this exam, please pay attention to the verb tenses. The other part of speech we have is prepositions. The properties and uses of the prepositions. Prepositions are the small words that usually relate to words or phrases to one another. An example of a preposition is to. I am going to town. By. Please pass by my house on your way back. On. I will come to school on Monday. So things like to, on, by, besides, between, these are prepositions. We have different types of prepositions. We have preposition of time, we have preposition of place, we have preposition of direction. These will show you what is the preposition relating to when it comes to the phrase. Is it relating to the time? Is it relating to the place? Or is it relating to the direction? We also have articles as a type of speech. We have indefinite articles, which is a and n. N is non-specific or indefinite. So what it basically means is indefinite articles, they are not indefinite and they are not specific. For example, you can talk about boy. So you can say a boy is walking. It doesn't necessarily mean we are talking about a specific boy because we said a boy. An apple is red. We are not talking about a specific apple. We are talking about any apple because a and an as articles are indefinite. We also have the definite article, which is the. When you now use the, it means you are being specific or you are definite. You know who you are talking about. If you say the boy in my class, you know who exactly you are talking to as compared to saying a boy in my class. For example, let's look at A. She is a candidate for the bravery award. A candidate, this is not specific, one of many non-specific. B, she received an award for bravery. It is also non-specific. But if I go on to say she received the award, it means now the award was specific. We move on to adverbs. An adverb is a word that is used to describe a verb. We explained verb earlier on. So now, for you to understand adverbs, it means you have to understand verbs as well, because we have to describe verbs. By describing, it means telling us more about a verb. An adverb, it tells us how the action, that is our verb, was done, when the action happened, how often does the action happen, how long did the action take place, and when did the action happen, that is the place. So in other words, we have adverbs of manner, which answers the question how. We have adverbs of time, which answers the question when. We have adverbs of frequency, which answers the question how often. We have adverbs of duration, which answers the question how long. And we have adverbs of place, which answers the question where. So you need to know these adverbs for this particular exam. We move on to the last part of speech we are going to look at, which is the adjectives. An adjective is a word that is used to describe or tell us more about a noun. There are several types of adjectives. We have adjectives of quality, adjectives of size, adjectives of origin, adjective of substance or material. We have adjectives of color. So for adjectives of quality, for example, if I say a beautiful girl, beautiful girl, beautiful becomes adjective of quality. It is describing the quality of the girl. If I say expensive cell phone, I'm describing the quality of the cell phone. Now we go on to adjectives of size. We have adjectives like big, small, tall, huge. These are adjectives of size. We also have adjectives of origin, which is the place where the noun or the object or the animal is originating. If I say Italian food, I am talking about the food that is originating from Italy. If I talk about German cars, I'm talking about cars that are coming from or that originate from Germany. Adjectives of substance or material. This is the material or the substance that is used to make that noun. For example, wood. I can say wooden table. Wood becomes the material. If I say cotton, it means I can give an example of a cotton shirt. It means the noun, the material which was used to make that shirt is cotton. And lastly, we also have adjectives of color. We have plenty of colors, so it means all colors can be adjectives. So you can describe your noun using color. For example, black pen, blue pen. These blue and black are colors, and we are describing the noun using colors. Use of punctuation marks. In this particular exam, you are required to know the use of punctuation marks. In order to make sense when you communicate in writing, it is essential to use punctuation appropriately and to understand the function of each various punctuation marks. Let us look at the basic punctuation marks in English. We have the full stop, question mark, and exclamation mark. This is not the punctuation marks that we only have, but this is just an example that I'm going to describe. The full stop. The function of the full stop. The full stop indicates where a sentence ends. It shows a logical break in your writing. A full stop must always be used between statements that are not related. Full stops are also found after certain abbreviations. Let's move on to the question mark. When to use a question mark? Instead of a full stop at the end of a sentence that is phrased as a question, for example, can you tell me exactly where you are? How long were you unconscious? This is a question. So to show that it's a question, we have to put a question mark, not a full stop. When expressing doubt or disbelief about something, we also use full question marks. She left work at 7. This is disbelief. She left work at 7 that afternoon. So it means there is a question mark. You are sort of like asking a question in your disbelief. In this sentence, you are questioning the validity, that is the truth of the statement. Is this really the way to act? We move on to the exclamation mark. The exclamation mark is used to indicate strong motion. For example, how horrible. I am so excited. So the strong emotion can be anger. It can also be surprise. So when you're surprised, you exclaim. When you are angry, we use exclamation mark. That is in writing. But when you are speaking, it's different because the tone of your voice will tell you whether are you angry or are you surprised. We also use exclamation mark in a statement that requires emphasis. I am not going to repeat that again. That is an order. So we have to look at these three first because they are sort of like a bit complicated than the other ones that I'm going to look at next. We are now going to look at the comma, semicolon, and the colon. These three punctuation marks are all used as a means of separation in a sentence. So when you are separating sentences, maybe you need to combine two sentences together. You can combine them or you can separate them by using the comma, the semicolon, the colon for you to separate the sentence. So an example that you might find in an exam on how to use punctuation marks is you can get a paragraph which is not punctuated at all. So what you need to do when you get such a question, it means you have to carefully read the paragraph. Starting from the capital letters, we all know that when you are starting a sentence, when you are writing a proper noun, these things have to be capitalized. So your your paragraph will not be punctuated at all. You will going to be asked to punctuate, meaning use these 5 punctuation marks that I just explained to punctuate your paragraph properly. We move on to tenses. I explained a bit about tenses when I'm talking about verbs. Now I'm going to tenses in detail. Tenses are used to indicate the sequence of events, the order in which events take place. In your particular line of work, it is essential to know in which order events take place, as this could establish criminal intent, the pre-established decision to commit a criminal act. The verb expresses this sequence of events. In other words, the verb tells us when the action took place or takes place. The present tense. The present tense is used to indicate events that happen often or on a regular basis. That is, if you are talking about every day or something that is happening now, regularly, we use present tense. Let's move on to the past tense. The past tense is used to indicate events that happened in the past. The past tense is a most important tense in your profession, as most statements and events are reported in the past tense. The future tense is used to indicate actions that will happen or take place at some time in the future. Time words such as tomorrow, next week, month, year, in future and soon indicate the future tense. So please be familiar with the use of tense. Another section that you are going to find in an exam is combining sentences in English. We join sentences in order to imitate natural pitch patterns, cut out unnecessary information, group together similar ideas, clearly indicate the correct sequence of events. So you might get two sentences and you are asked to combine them. So you have to look whether you are imitating natural speech patterns, are you cutting out unnecessary information, is it required for you to group them similar ideas, or are you clearly indicating the correct sequence of events. We are moving on to types of questions. The use of different types of questions. Type of questions, we have open questions, opens up the discussion and does not need any particular answer. Closed questions is specific and answered with a yes or no. Fact-finding questioning aimed at getting information to a specific subject. Follow-up questions aimed at getting more information or eliciting an opinion. Feedback questions aimed at getting a specific type of information. So if you go onto your guide, go on and read in detail the different types of questions that we have. Active and passive voice and direct speech. Active voice. Most sentences are active. In the active voice, the subject and verb relation is straightforward. The subject is doing the action, that is the verb, and the object receives the action. Let me explain a bit further. In your sentence, a sentence structure, it's like we have the subject, the verb, and the object. This is the SVO structure or the SV structure. These are the two types of sentence structures we have. The SV, which is the subject and the verb, the SVO, which is the subject, the verb, and the object. So before you go on to changing to passive voice, you have to identify which one is the subject in your sentence, which one is the object, which one is the verb. So in this sentence, Jack stole the car. Jack is the subject. Stole is the verb. The car is the object. So the subject is doing the action and the object is receiving the action. It means the action was directed towards that object. So with passive voice, is used when the action is on focus. We are more focusing on the action. We are more focusing on the verb when we are using passive voice. The subject does the action. The subject who does the action is not important, or sometimes it is not known. In the example, the car is stolen. It is not known who stole the car, or it is not important to know who stole the car. So in this instance, we only have the car, which is the object, is stolen. Stolen is the past participle of the verb steal, which is now is stolen, which is our verb in this sentence. Let me explain it again. In active voice, we focus on the subject doing the action. In passive voice, we focus on the object receiving the action. So it is the other way around. Let's move on to direct and indirect speech. We often have to give information about what people say or think. We can do this by using direct or quoted speech, or indirect or reported speech. In your line of work, like I explained earlier, most of the statements that you are going to get are going to be reported, so we will use reported speech. Direct or quoted speech. Direct speech is when we quote words for word that someone says. In writing, we use quotation marks and we repeat the original utterance exactly. Indirect or reported speech. Indirect speech that does not use quotation marks to enclose what the person says, and it does not have to be word for word. So the important thing to note when you are now changing from direct speech to indirect speech is you have to change the tense of the verb. So in case if your verb was in the present tense when it was direct speech, when it becomes indirect speech, your verb has to be past tense, because you are reporting on action that has happened already, or you are reporting on what someone has already said. Skimming, scanning, intensive reading methods. Skimming methods. This is a method of rapid moving the eyes over the text with the purpose of getting only the main ideas and a general overview of the content. Steps in skimming. We read the article, read the introduction or lead in paragraph, read the first paragraph completely, read the subheadings and look for relationships among them, read the first sentence of each remaining paragraph, look in the text for clue words that answers who, what, when, how, and why, proper nouns, unusual words, especially if capitalized, enumerations, qualifying objects, that is the best, worst, most, for example, typographical cues, italics, boldface, underlining, asterisks, etc. So this is what you look at when you are skimming. And you read the final paragraph completely. Scanning method. When scanning a text, we rapidly cover a great deal of material in order to locate a specific fact or piece of information. It is very useful for finding a specific name, date, statistic, or fact without reading the entire document. Steps in scanning a document. Remember what is it you are searching for. Anticipate in what form of the information is likely to appear. So it means you assume with the direction of which the information will go. Analyze the organization of the content before starting the scan. If the material is similar or brief, you may be able to scan the entire document in the single search. If the material is lengthy or difficult, a preliminary skimming may be needed to determine which part of the document to scan. Let your eyes run rapidly over several lines of print at a time. When you find the sentence that seeks, read the entire sentence. When you're scanning a document, you must be willing to skip over a large section of text without reading or understanding them. We move on to the last one, intensive reading method. Reading for comprehension is when we read through every word of a document from beginning to end. When talking in its meaning and relating into the context which is used. Intensive reading usually follows scanning. We have to read the sentences or paragraphs 2 or 3 times to fully understand the context of the meaning of the document. The reason why I explained skimming, scanning, and intensive is because in the exam, you are going to find comprehensions, or you are going to be given a small text to analyze before you can answer certain questions. So if you get a question paper with a comprehension is a story where you read, at the end of the day, you answer questions below. So if you get a comprehension, you first quickly skim. By skimming, you just go through the comprehension quickly, and then you go on to read the questions. Now, the reason why you read the question is because you are now going to do intensive reading, where you are trying to now find answers for the test. So this is why I was explaining skimming, scanning, and intensive reading is when you get a comprehension text. Okay. Now that I am done with the summary of the module, I am going to guide you guys into answering some of the sample questions that I've put together. You can get a question which says adjective or adverb. So you can get a sentence which says, choose whether the item circled is adverb or adjective, or choose in the sentence an adjective or an adverb. So it means you can circle the adjective or the adverb depending on what the question wants. Another simple question can be, fill in the blanks with appropriate articles a, an, or the, or leave the space blank if no article is needed. So you look at the articles, you look at the sentence, and you remember whether is it going to be indefinite, is it indefinite, or is it definite? So if it is indefinite, you put a, an. If it's definite, you put the. You can also get a question which says, name one function of a preposition. So in other words, you just name functions of preposition. You can also get it, this question can come in different ways. You can say name one function of a preposition, or you can say what is the function of a preposition. So if it says name one function, you just name the function of a preposition. If it says what are the functions of a preposition, you just write the functions of a preposition. List 3 things a writer of a report must be aware when writing a report. List 3 things a writer of a report must be aware when writing a report. If you get such a question in the exam, we have explained already that reporting has to be in direct speech. So it means you are using the past tense. So you list 3 things a writer must be aware when writing a report. Another simple question can be, list 5 examples of information of the deponent that should be included in the preamble of an affidavit. You are going to find all these answers in your study guide. So these are just simple questions that might be in the exam, but in the exam it definitely means they are going to be changed, but just look for something similar to this. This is the end of this session. So if there are any questions, please contact me at my email address, which is zabe, zabe.chim, chim@yahoo.com, or you can call me on 0817 356 991. Let me repeat my number again, 0817 356 991, and I wish you all the best in your coming exam.